Nick Marsh. Will Nick Marsh join any Big Ten teams? Nick Marsh is in the transfer portal. Zach, the star wide receiver for Michigan State, brother of Andrew Marsh at Michigan right now. He entered the transfer portal very shortly after Jonathan Smith was fired. It sounds like rumors were that he was going to enter the portal regardless, so I don't think it has anything to do with Jonathan Smith. I don't think that, he's just going to follow Jonathan Smith wherever he is or anything like that. But I do think that Nick Marsh could find himself at a pretty big program next year, whether it's in the SEC or the Big Ten. Zach, what are your thoughts on Nick Marsh leaving Michigan State, and where do you think he might go?
For the good of his career, I think it makes a lot of sense. They have not had good quarterback play, and I love Pat Fitzgerald, but like dynamic offense is not what Pat Fitzgerald is known for. So there's just a lot of unknowns at Michigan State. It'll be his third year. I would love to see him stick it out, but I understand it. Honestly, the first team I thought of, Indiana.
Yeah, I could see it.
They're losing Elijah Surratt. They're losing EJ Williams. Omar Cooper might go to the draft.
He could go to the draft,
junior. Yeah. Like, I know you've got some guys coming in. What's the kid? Charlie Becker, who's been great in relief of Surratt. But you need more receivers. And guess what? Indiana has a reputation now of having an explosive and efficient offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'd go.
And Nick Marsh fits that kind of brand of football that they like to run, or at least they have run this year with Fernando Mendoza. Big X wide receiver you can put on the outside, have him go out and battle for some balls out there. Obviously, that's not all they do, but they do, the back shoulder throws and everything else, and he would be a guy that could definitely make that happen for them. So I do think Nick Marsh would fit that pretty well. When you were talking, I was thinking through what is Nick Marsh like, because you were kind of talking about it there. You ever had like something in your house and it wasn't like bad, it was actually pretty good, but maybe it was broken, and you set it out there on the side of the road and you were like, free, doesn't work, but maybe you can make it work type of deal? You ever had one of those? I feel like that's what Nick Marsh is doing right now. He's sitting outside the Michigan State facility, and he's like, hey, didn't have a great season, didn't work, but you could really turn me into something here. So, free, come on over and get me. I hope that's not disrespectful to Nick Marsh. I just thought of that in my head, so I was doing it. But he's going to be a great player wherever he goes.
Yeah. Fight on. I start his comment here. He said, I think USC is also talking to him.
Yeah, that would make total sense.
Yeah, he was excellent his freshman season with a not very good passing attack. Mm-hmm. I would love to see him. Like, honestly, I doubt this happens, but like I could see Ohio State at least having a conversation with him. But I think it's more likely Indiana, USC,
Michigan.
I'm trying to think. I don't think he's going to Michigan.
His brother's there.
Yeah, and he saw that his brother had 0 catches against Ohio State.
Yeah, that's true. But man, could you imagine a 1-2 duo of Nick Marsh and Andrew Marsh? That'd be pretty great.
It would be great for Michigan. Let me just say that. It would be great for Michigan. And they probably could find a way to make it work from an NIL perspective.
Oh yeah, but Michigan's got plenty of NIL. They can make it work. Yeah,
they can make it work. The problem is he's leaving a bad passing attack to then go to a bad passing attack right now. I just don't. I think Fight On has a good point. He's from Long Beach, so like he could go back home to the West Coast.
And sometimes that matters in the portal. I mean, I've done enough of these portal prediction early things that like you definitely want to look at where they're from, but it doesn't always indicate where they're going to go is where they're from and stuff. Sometimes it can be a big indicator. So like I said, it's definitely something you need to look at, but it's not always the indicator to look at.
Yeah. I want to get to this comment here real quick. If Ohio State has interest, he'd be a fool to go anywhere else. Ohio State's wide receiver development is top notch. I agree. Here's a question I have though. When is the last time Ohio State brought in a receiver in the transfer portal.
Well, they're actually talking like Ohio State's probably going to have to bring in a receiver from the portal this year for like the first time under Brian Hartline because his numbers are so low. Because Brian Hartline goes out and gets, goes for the biggest. Like he's a great recruiter. He gets really, really good prospects, but he doesn't get very many of them. Like he gets like one or two guys a season most likely. And this season, I think he has 5 guys committed in his wide receiver class. He's about to lose 2 of them. And Chris Henry Jr. could get one of them. Chris Henry Jr. might go to USC or not USC or Oregon. West Virginia fans are really, thinking he's going to go there. I don't think that's happening, but
No.
but Chris Henry Jr. could go to Oregon. So if you lose Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon Wyatt, you only bring in 3 guys, albeit I think they're good receivers, but they're not like the 5-star guys. And honestly, like, have the receivers looked all that impressive this season when when Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate weren't in there? I mean, they're obviously impressive, but they were not up to the standard of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith.
No, but I like how much of that was how much of that, like it seemed like why can't I remember his name? Number 5, Mylan Graham.
Mylan Graham. Yeah.
Seemed like he was in the doghouse for a couple things. Quincy Porter's been hurt.
That's true.
So I'm not saying you're wrong. Like I think they probably will go in the portal. I don't know how they're going to go after specific people. And I think Nick Marsh might be one of the top receivers in the portal. I just think there are other teams that have greater need than Ohio State.
That's fair. Yeah, I think you're probably looking at other schools like LSU and Auburn that are probably going to look at him too, right? Auburn just got their new head coach, Lane Kiffin at LSU. He's going to make the look to make a splash in the transfer portal as he did at Ole Miss, and definitely with this season as well. And then I would not be surprised if Notre Dame, second year of CJ Carr, they go out.
That's a good point.
In the state of Indiana, he's still up there, in that kind of area. So if he does like going to school in the Northwest, he stays up there. But yeah, I would say USC, Indiana, and LSU are probably the 3 most likely, I would say, at this point.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, LSU has the whole like wide receiver, development and everything else. And they've done it with multiple different coaches. So there's a whole lot of hype there with them.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else on Nick Marsh?
Nope. Good work.